Afternoon, you're listening to the Todd LaBorwit Show, Real Estate Radio and Sound Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. I'm your host, Todd LaBorwit, and this segment is brought to you by Topaz Mortgage, our preferred partner for mortgage brokering. And in the studio with us now is Bradford Wilcox. He's a CPA. He was in the real estate business, and then he went out and went into the mortgage business, and now he's back into the real estate business. And he's a big treat for you today because this is a guy that understands the real estate market inside and out. Welcome to the studio, Brad.
Thanks, Todd. Thanks for having me.
I mean, you've covered it all. You're like you're like everything in one person.
Yeah, I've done a few different things in my career, both in public accounting, working with a lot of people in the building and construction business. And then I went into have my own real estate company back in 2002.
Wonderful. And what happened is when the industry blew up in 2008 and real estate really wasn't moving, you decided to get into the mortgage business because you're a numbers guy.
Yeah, I was a CPA, finance major, and I really wanted to look into the finance aspect of real estate, but I didn't want to leave the real estate industry.
Yeah, well, and let me ask you this. You came here and you wanted to talk about like contracts, and it's a tough conversation to have.
Yeah.
But to make it interesting for our listeners, let's go over some key things in here. Like you have contingency. How would you define the word contingency?
Well, contingency is something that has to happen for something else to happen. Financing contingency, they need to have get their financing, or possibly the contract might have to go void.
So if I am selling my house and someone comes to me and says, hey, I have a pre-approval, all I need is an appraisal and title work, and it's as if I'm buying your house for cash, I need zero financing contingency, versus someone else coming to me and saying, look, I got all my stuff into my mortgage person, but I need 20 days to make sure I get approved. Otherwise, I want my deposit back.
Right.
Which one am I going to take? Obviously, the one with the shorter contingency.
Possibly.
Okay, why
possibly?
Well, if I'm paying the same amount of money.
If it's the same amount of money, probably so.
Right. Only way I would do it. But now, what other contingencies are there in contracts for our listeners that they need to know? Just bullet points.
Yeah. Well, you have your sale of home contingency.
That's a big one because if I need to sell my home, I can't buy the new house.
That's exactly right. Your home inspection contingency.
Home inspection. That's a big one because on the TV shows, a lot of people play games where, oh, I'll buy your house for $200,000, and then the home inspector comes in and says there's $50,000 worth of damage, and they say lower, like.
Right. Exactly.
Now, do a lot of people still use a lot of home inspection contingencies?
Yes, they do. Yeah. Back in the day, when things were very competitive, a lot of people did away with their some of their contingencies, if not all their contingencies. But now that now they're protecting themselves a little bit better now.
And it's important, and also real home inspectors don't have to be licensed.
They do not have to be licensed.
Maryland, it's an easy license.
Right.
Virginia and D.C., they don't have to be licensed. So anyone can go in and basically have a card and say, hey, I'm a home inspector.
That's true, technically. But most of your agents around the area, especially the ones that have been in the business for a while, they have people that they've vetted.
Oh, yeah.
And so a lot of these home inspectors are extremely good at what they do.
But the ones that scare me are the people that say, oh, my neighbor's brother has his real estate license, and the guy or woman doesn't know real estate as much as other real estate agents.
Right. Well, that happens.
And they go off of, it's amazing how people pick their agents.
Yeah, and that happens sometimes. You want to go with an experienced agent, no question.
And that's why we have all the agents on the show, and that's why you're one of the agents on here, because you have some amazing listings in this area. I'm on your email list.
Mm-hmm.
It gets my attention.
Yeah, well, thank you.
I mean, you got a lot of great listings and deals that are out there. Now, let's talk about some other, what other things you want to talk about? Contingencies we got covered.
Well, another contingency would be a third-party approval. Let's say there's a situation where the bank actually owns the property.
Oy.
And we have to get an approval on this contract, especially the price, from the third party. That is fairly common these days.
Now, Brad, one of the things that you like to specialize in, because you're a numbers guy, you know the industry inside and out, and you love real estate. You specialize with first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're dealing with a first-time home buyer, you're dealing with a lot of emotions. You almost need a psychology background. And the approach that you have is not only are you able to help people psychologically get into a home, but as far as protecting them with the contracts, as far as taxes, being a CPA, how much more money they can, when they're renting versus having the deduction on the interest, where I have to say, go talk to your CPA, you can actually help them with those calculations.
Right.
You understand the mortgage side of it, about how the importance of a pre-approval letter. Like I know we at Topaz Mortgage, we do a pre-approval where it's pre-approved by the underwriter, signed off, where all we need is an appraisal, sales contract, and title work.
That's great.
Home inspection contingency, that's up to you.
Yeah.
And you basically protect the first-time home buyers, where other people are like, oh, I specialize with first-time home buyers because I educate them on what to do, or I deal with their psychology, but you actually protect them on the contract end as well, which other agents do, but you really focus on the contract.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if what I'd like to offer you, our listeners, is an opportunity to get in touch with Brad Wilcox. He's a real estate agent over at Long & Foster over here in Bethesda, Maryland. And just call or text me at 301-467-8444. That number again is 301-467-8444. Now, Brad, you also deal with listings. Are these are your listings, right? They're hot listings.
Yeah. Well, there's a growing number of listings, not just mine, but in the marketplace.
So you have a pretty wild name for yourself out here.
Yeah, a lot of people know me around the area.
Yeah, you're a very well-known guy. And do you do a lot of market analysis for your friends and families and people that know you?
Absolutely.
And what I'd like is, for our listeners or anybody that's interested, what a market analysis is you basically give Brad your home address, and he'll be able to tell you what your house is worth. A lot of people do go to Zillow and they go to the Truvia and the other sites, but they're not as accurate.
Right.
A true market analysis does take a lot of time and patience, and it's a lot of numbers crunching, which Brad doesn't mind doing. And he also said if you're interested in finding out what your house is worth, you can do a market analysis. Just text me at 301-467-8444. And just put in your address, and I'll forward it over to Brad. Just that number again is 301-467-8444. What other topics do you want to cover? Let's talk about personal.
Personal?
Yeah.
What do you want to know? I'm an avid cyclist.
An avid cyclist.
Yeah.
What's one of the wildest trips you took?
Well, probably one of the most memorable was riding out of L.A. up into Malibu and riding through the mountains. And just seeing the Pacific Ocean from that height up in the desert in the mountains, which is a lot different than from around this area.
No humidity.
No humidity, but very hot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you take a trip once a year?
I've ridden probably 50 or 60,000 miles on my bike in the last 20 years.
Oh, my God.
And I've set a little bit of a goal for myself to try to ride 100 miles in each state in the country before I get to the point where I can't ride anymore.
Should we find out what states you need to cover that are left, or the ones that you have already covered?
Just the ones that I've covered.
So which ones?
Very local.
Okay. So
done Maryland, Delaware, the Carolinas, Florida, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and ironically, California.
What was the most dangerous?
Probably the most dangerous is riding in and out of Annapolis.
You might as well be a DC Carrier with your bike.
Right. Because there's the only way to get into Annapolis is via bridges.
Wow.
And so you want to go when it's nice weather, and tourists want to go to Annapolis when it's nice weather.
Right.
And it's not a good mix.
Aye. Well, by the way, if you're just tuning in, I have with me Brad Wilcox. He's a CPA and real estate agent with Long & Foster. Well, a CPA background, and he's a real estate agent with Long & Foster. I'm your host, Todd LaBorwit, and you're listening to Sound Broadcast Network, WRC 1260 AM. Now, Brad, what got you into real estate?
What got me into real estate? Both my parents were in real estate. Back in the day in high school, I took 4 years of architecture. I loved the buildings aspect of real estate. And like I said, when I was in the public and private accounting, I worked with a lot of builders, a lot of construction people with their finances. And so I decided in the early 2000s that give it a try and open up my own company.
Wow. And you've seen it all, the ups and downs and everything. Wonderful. Well, Brad, thank you so much for being here. You're one of the good guys out there, and definitely people could listen to you to get their new house or find out to sell their house.